If they had said, listen, there was some corrosion, but we didn't think that it was going to be structurally that damaging and we should have corrected it, I think most Rhode Islanders would say, okay, you made a mistake, otherwise, let's move on. But they've refused to do that.
The cover-up is always worse than the crime, and this is exactly a great instance of that.
Now it's coming out thanks to journalism, and I think Rhode Island voters are not necessarily surprised, but I do think it matters a great deal.
And welcome to this episode of Lively. I'm Jim Hummel. Thank you for joining us. We are joined this week by Cienki, National Committeewoman for the Rhode Island GOP, and Brown University political science professor Wendy Schiller. Welcome to you both.
Thanks.
Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Engineers looking at why the Washington Bridge failed in 2023 concluded that support rods had been corroding for more than 15 years, but it was information left out of a key report given to the Rhode Island DOT last year. Wendy, let me begin with you on this one. This is a report that I did for the Hummel Report. It was in the Providence Journal this week. I got a tranche of documents that basically said this was a lot worse for a lot longer than what was let on publicly.
Yeah, this is the kind of information that Rhode Island voters want. They've wanted for quite some time. It's always been curious to me why the McKee administration and Alviti have not been willing to talk about this. You can say, look, we have to make decisions about what disruptions we have, what money we spend, and what we think is dire. And if they had said, listen, there was some corrosion, but we didn't think that it was going to be structurally that damaging, so we put it off for a little while, and we made a mistake with that, and we should have corrected it, I think most Rhode Islanders would say, okay, you made a mistake, otherwise, let's move on. But they've refused to do that. They have stonewalled, and they have not been forthcoming. And I blame the governor for that. I blame Alviti for that. And this sort of hiding behind the lawsuit was never acceptable. And I think now it's coming out thanks to journalism. And I think Rhode Island voters are not necessarily surprised, but I do think it matters a great deal. And I think that the governor has not handled it well.
I think the cover-up is always worse than the crime. And this is exactly a great instance of that. When you're hiding things from the public, and you're right, this happened pre-McKee. He was not governor. Why didn't he just say, yeah, there were mistakes made? You always blame your predecessor. There were mistakes made. Someone was not watching, but we're going to fix it. That's what people expect to hear, not find out through your report, oh, this was a problem 15 years ago and everybody, turned a blind eye to it.
Yeah, I think this is the curious thing, though, of course, it's always politics and always campaigning, is that, will folks be able to really capitalize on it without sounding like, okay, you did bad things, but now what's happening? Because then McKee and Alviti, who's still in his job, would say, well, we're moving ahead. We've demolished the bridge. We've got a contract. We're building a new bridge. We've addressed the problem. So I think this is the question mark about how much of an issue this will be in a Democratic primary, 8 months from now.
Thank you for your patience while we redo the bridge. As I ride over that, my blood boils because I have to go over the Washington Bridge a lot. So my patience is wearing thin.
Well, and the impact that it will have on small businesses. How do they survive? Are you going to see more and more closures of those? And can the Democratic candidate, Helena Foulkes, can she capitalize on that and say, listen, I would have done a much better job than he has. I would have told you what had happened here, and let's get it fixed. And I think she's already stated that Alviti would be gone.
Yeah,
he would not be.
Yeah, she would have held people responsible. Yeah. Now, Shekarchi, the speaker, this is
House Speaker Joe
thing.
Shekarchi, yeah.
Right. So when you think about that and his position, and he's sort of sitting on the sidelines with a lot of money and still hasn't decided, I never think that plays well. If you want the top job in the state and you want to be governor, you got to go for it. You got to get out there. And to his credit, McKee said, I'm coming again. I'm going to run again. And I think that says to Rhode Islanders, I'm committed. This sort of waffling, I just don't think, the longer it goes, I don't think it's helpful.
Well, and the other thing, Wendy, is Joe Shekarchi, we all know him. If you go to Exeter or Middletown or Newport, is he in the legislature? Not a lot of people know him. And what was the mistake that Helena Foulkes made 4 years ago? She got out of the blocks too late. And so people said, oh, maybe she had 2 or 4 more weeks. The election's the same time in November every year. If Joe Shekarchi is going to run and use all that $3 or $4 million, Start now.
But the bridge will be an issue for him. He was also a very powerful guy.
You think there's backsplash on him from the bridge?
Absolutely. He's running the state government. And why hasn't he come down harder on the McKee administration?
Yeah, I think that he looks at the race right now. I don't think he's going to get in. I don't care that he's got $3.8 million.
Why not?
I don't think he's going to get in because I think Joe is, he's too sensitive. He doesn't have an alligator skin like most politicians. You have to have an alligator skin. And I think he wants a clear pathway. I think he realizes that McKee has the backing of the union, and they're not going to leave him yet. So if McKee gets out of the race, maybe he will jump in.
But would they leave him if Cienki got into the race?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, I mean, but the issue is that in this day and age, in the Democratic primary, and that population may be shrinking in Rhode Island in terms of registration, but we've seen in New York, we've seen in other places that the primary voting constituency may not respond so well to the good old boy network saying, oh, we're sticking with McKee, we're the unions. That's a percentage of the voting population in the primary, but it's not a majority of the Democratic voting population in the primary. So it doesn't mean you're going to win the primary. And that's the sort of reality politically now that, the inside baseball people don't quite get looking around the country.
Yeah, and I also think that he's got $3.8 million, but Helena can stoke a check for $4 million. Right. I mean, she's got the money. And how does he have that money? He has that money because he's the speaker. When he's no longer the speaker, is he going to be able to attract that money? He's got lobbyists. He's got people that want to push legislation forward. So they're throwing money at him. I think that he's got an issue because there is a time limit to be speaker. I mean, you have to get out of that role or trouble just
there's
ensues.
a shelf life that
There
always follows. And that's why Bill Murphy was probably the example of getting out and cashing in, right? Because he's lobbyists. Getting back to the bridge, Gina Raimondo seems to have gotten a pass on this whole thing, and I've always thought the feds have always been the savior in Rhode Island. They came in, they prosecuted Buddy Cienki. There's state cases that the attorneys general, for a variety of reasons, have not wanted to go after. And when I heard that the DOJ was going to come in and get to the bottom of it because there was a lot of federal highway money that went into that bridge, where did our investment go? You've heard nothing. Now, I've heard from some sources that said the Biden administration didn't want backsplash on the Secretary of Commerce. And I wonder where Raimondo is all this and whether politics kind of gave her a pass. Where is the DOJ now on this?
Well, I mean, I think that Governor Raimondo and Secretary of Commerce Raimondo hasn't been asked point blank yet. What did you know? And when did you know it? The famous Howard Baker comment from the Watergate hearings 50 years ago. So I think I'd like to know. I'd like to know, what did Alviti tell her? Did she ever ask? Was she ever? I mean, it's quite likely she never came across her desk, but she was governor.
And why didn't Governor McKee throw former Governor Raimondo under the bus? They didn't have the best relationship. She froze him out for years. Was he getting marching orders? Do not say anything about her.
Right. She kept him in a closet. So I don't understand his strategy whatsoever.
I think he didn't want her to come in and campaign for folks. I don't think he wanted her to come in and endorse folks. She may come in and endorse folks anyway, but I think, and that's a curious thing, if she doesn't come in and endorse folks, then you have to think to yourself, maybe there's some agreement about the bridge. Right? That you stay out of this, and
we won't go after
start
you.
Throwing you under the bridge while you're gearing up.
Under the bridge instead under the bus, throw him under the bridge.
And I think, Helena, the problem becomes if Governor Raimondo actually does come in, is she then labeled as Raimondo 2.0?
Right.
And does that hurt her?
Right.
I mean, I think it may hurt her in the Democratic primary. It's certainly going to hurt her. Republicans would be turned off by that.
Wasn't she labeled that already in the first election?
Yeah,
but she was, but not now.
Not in your face.
Not now.
You bring that person in, you get labeled
And
that.
she's been doing a lot of work, folks, talking to a lot of people around the state for a long time now. And I think she's trying to establish herself individually.
Right.
So, but there is that dynamic of the Raimondo questions. This was a really big deal, and you were governor. What happened?
Right.
And how did you not know about it?
It's interesting. A lot of people have short memories. Voters have short memories. UHIP, what was that? And the bridges and all of the stuff.
Just had a settlement, right, with Deloitte.
The settlement.
Just paid,
But the Washington Bridge is different because it goes on every single day. People have to cross it. And I don't know how the governor gets over that. No matter how you try to spin it, it's not something you can put in the rearview mirror until the new bridge is built.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the legislature keeps saying we want to have more oversight. Well, now they're saying we want to put them under oath. You're not going to get anything. I think that's a dog and pony show because they're going to rely on, well, we're in litigation. We can't say anything.
How about getting a subpoena and holding them in contempt?
Yeah, well, I just don't think we're going to get the information that we deserve.
And the
as the
litigation
public.
is prompted by the governor's office.
Yes.
The government is suing. Oh, we can't talk because we're in litigation. Well, nobody's forcing you to be in litigation. You could settle litigation and then tell us what we need to know.
I'm one who is in the camp. I'd ditch the lawsuit tomorrow if I could get to the bottom of who was responsible
And
for all of
every voter
this.
in Rhode Island would do the same thing, because also blaming companies that work in Rhode Island and then wanting to do business with those companies again, why would they want to come back here? Because they just feel like they're going to be sued.
You're going to keep a lot of businesses away from wanting to do any business here because they're saying, well, you're just going to sue me. And what actually happens is they're going to up their bids to cover their losses. So who loses? The taxpayers.
But you hit
yet
it
again.
right on the head. You said, so it's going to be 2027 after the election. They're going to settle, and there's going to be an NDA.
That's right.
Non-disclosure agreement.
And
just
we're
like
never
having
gonna
the
know.
settlements in the station nightclub fire. We never got to the bottom of that because ultimately so they pled out, and we never got to open up the whole thing. So, so wouldn't you rather have a little more accountability?
I would absolutely love to have more transparency and accountability throughout government here. You know, we just don't get enough here. And do people care? I mean, I don't know if people actually care.
And has there been, I am not aware of this, but I wonder if the Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce has done a survey of statewide businesses about the impact of the bridge. Because even going down to Warwick or East Greenwich, you think about the time of day now. You used to think rush hour, but now you think, oh, I don't want to get caught in bridge traffic coming back. So, you know, you may not go down there for things. And so I do think the whole state's infected. And I would like to see a survey from the Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce really understanding what the impact has been.
That would be an interesting
I was going to
survey.
say, interesting that you said that because I had a meeting yesterday in Warwick and somebody said, did you look at the red on every artery coming
In and out
into
of
the
Providence.
city?
All
And
right.
that was at 9 o'clock in the morning.
And it's not just the East Bay people. It's all around. Okay.
Well, I have friends that live on the East Bay. I said to them, I'll see you when the bridge is done. I'm not climbing
I'll see you in
over that again.
2028.
Yeah, not
All right.
doing it.
To be continued. Wendy and Sue, thank you. It was a quick segment. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Lively right here on Ocean State Media. Subscribe to us on YouTube and tell us what you think in the comments section below the video.